But then all of a sudden, Manji was kind of like, hey, so like, what if I want to call you for me? And I was like, no.
Yeah. So what do you mean, like, calling for me? Like, what is that? Sorry, now? Yeah.
Yeah, well, because he was kind of like, what about religious life? And I was like, there's no way. Like, I was like, like, I can't do it. Like, and I just kept getting this, like, the way me and him talk, it's not really this big, like, voice from heaven, like, NK, like, It was just, like, in little ways. It just kept coming up in my heart. And I was like, I don't know. I don't know if this is,
kind of what you were.
Yeah. Like, I never pictured myself as a sister.
Yeah.
That's crazy, and I was like, no thanks. So for 6 months, I, like, ran away from it. But Manji being Manji, while I was discerning between these two, well, I didn't think I was discerning, running away from one and really hoping to be the other one. It was like another thing, spanner into the mix, Missionary, and I was like, that's funny.
So Missionary, so there's two things I want to kind of talk further about, let's say. So first thing was obviously discernment. So I can tell, like, obviously the way you've described it now, and obviously knowing you personally, I know that, like, you have a particular plan for your life, and I'm somebody who can hold on to that very strongly. I'm somebody who kind of, plans A, B, C, sets my whole life and kind of planning that entire thing. And I can tell that, you kind of had a semi-plan where you still was all for the glory of God, but still you want to do it your way type of thing.
100%, yeah.
And obviously now when something kept being put into your heart, you were kind of like, no, like, it's not what I want to do. I can still do what, I can still glorify you, but I have to do it my way. So it was kind of like, any K way or the highway type of one. So I guess like that, I know we joke about it, but the whole, let go and let God type of thing, you really have to completely surrender yourself into it. And we'll get, more into that in a bit. But obviously also the other biggest thing in your life and kind of what you've been doing is Missionary. So if you don't know Annie or haven't kind of seen her around, Annie was actually the first missionary for our Syro-Malabar Eparchy here in Australia, where she quit work, quit everything, and spent 1 whole year dedicated for the mission of Australia, bringing the children and young children and the youth closer to their faith. So do you want to kind of briefly explain a little bit about it as well?
Yeah, I mean, it was like, how you said your plans and things like that, like, just like one thing before I go into mission, because I was like, I'm going to buy a house, this and that and whatever, and that's when, like, this whole mission year thing came. I was like, I can't buy a house when I'm, like, quitting my job now, like, and so, like, it was like, okay, but then I made a deal. I was like, okay, you know what, I couldn't, by the time the mission thing came up, it was like, I couldn't decide between the other two vocations. So I was like, okay, you know what, I'll pray, continue to pray about it, and I'll do mission. I'll say yes to mission, but you're gonna have to, like, I'm like demanding in my relationship with God. So like, I was like, you're gonna have to give me an answer by the end of mission year. So it's like another year and a half.
Okay.
And mission year was crazy. Like, it was amazing, crazy. I don't know how to put it. Like, it was like the coolest but the hardest, like, thing that I had done up until that point.
During COVID as well.
So I was like literally even more of like the doing it our way. I was like, okay, you know what? Finally got my mind in mindset of doing mission. Like, I'm going to go to all around Australia, New Zealand, maybe Singapore, all in Oceania, and like, Manji said, and I was like, oh damn, and it was hard, like, because like, if it was ministry in person, it's still different. At one point you finish and then but it was like 24 hours, and it was great also, but it was like, it really helped me in my spiritual journey, and really helped me, like, focus my, like, lens, I guess, on Manji, which is something Pidal always says. So like, it really helped, and
Okay, so like, you can definitely see that, I, again, from seeing you as well, initially you could tell that you were very you weren't happy about it. The fact that, you know, we were stuck in our homes and you kind of had to do a lot of online stuff, kind of transferring into Zoom and things like that. It wasn't easy. It wasn't for somebody who knows Annie likes to travel around the world and things like that. So I guess when you couldn't do things your way, obviously the acceptance was not easy. But in the end, like the end of the year, it was like a whole new Annie. And I kind of want to touch on more, I guess, in that process, because I know obviously you were kind of like go with mission year and things like that, but still you were getting little signs here and there and things like that. And I think just in general, discernment, it's not an easy thing. It's very, especially like obviously it's more common to like the vocation of marriage, so we kind of hear it more, but it's obviously, I feel like sometimes in some places it's kind of rushed, where it's like, okay, you're a certain age, time to get married. Like it's very like, okay, what's next type of thing. You finish uni or studies and then you have a job, or you didn't have anything else for you, time to get married type of thing.
Chop.
Yeah, so like the clock really is ticking. But especially when, you know, the vocation of religious life, especially when it's not as common, it can be very daunting. And when you don't 100%. Know if this is, you know, is this the one for me, where you're completely surrendering your life for God. In that time, obviously, I don't think, you know, you couldn't do it by yourself. And there were a few crucial people who were there from the very beginning who kind of helped you, you know, make 100%. those decisions to where you are now. So do you want to just explain, you know, a couple of people who are kind of crucial from the start, and like, you know, if you're recommending for anyone who's listening, who's also in the process of discerning, you know, things like, I know you might touch on it, but like, you know, if a spiritual father is somebody you need and things like that. So do you want to just kind of go over that as well?
Yeah, I mean, like when I started national team, I was already praying for a spiritual mentor. Yeah. Because I was like, okay, like I want to be close to you now. I want to like have this relationship with you now, but I don't know how to do it on my own, you know? Yeah. So I heard so much about people having these spiritual mentors, and I was like, damn, I want one of those, you know? Yeah. And so I was praying about it, and like finally, like 2 months into like, or 3 months into mission, I got it. Like I got by chance I found this, he's an Opus Dei father, and it was amazing. It was almost like God brought him into my life, that he was going to be the spiritual father that helped me figure out direct me towards like whatever it is that I'm going through, or towards God and everything, you know what I mean? Yeah. And so like one of the biggest things that I would definitely say is like, get yourself a spiritual father. Start praying. If you don't know who could be a spiritual father, start praying for it. Yeah. Because like it was so frustrating trying to work through all these different feelings. It's actually, it can be, if you're in the position, I completely understand where you're at or where you're coming from, because I was there. And it was the hardest thing ever. And the worst is that you feel like you can't actually tell everyone how you feel, or like you just want to be like, you know, like you're frustrated, but you can't tell anyone. So you just keep it all in. So like a spiritual father really helps. And for me personally, because I was already doing mission, I was working very closely with Bishop Bosco Putur. I'm the first and, Bishop here in Australia. And he's great. Like, you know, he's very guided me, very supportive, guided me through every step of the way. Yeah. And our very own Chachin, like our director, youth director. Yeah, so sorry, I said chat. Yeah. You know, like him being married with 6 kids, like it's like it's like, oh wow, okay, that's married life, and you know, it's good. But one of the other things that was really useful for me was spiritual friends, spiritual companions. So like you guys, and you know, like other people that might also be discerning, talking to them, and like
you went to some not retreats, but like programs where, you know, there were groups of people who were discerning and stuff that was organized through our church as well. Yeah. Where you were kind of with like-minded people, or maybe similar journeys. Yeah. So like resources were available.
Yeah, like Come and See is like a vocational discernment program. So it's not like people be like, oh, it's only if you want to be a sister or a priest or whatever. Yeah. But it's to discern your vocation. So whatever it may be, whether it's religious life, married life, consecrated virgin, whatever.
And I think that's actually because I feel like whenever we hear come and see in like just in our place, we're always like, oh, you go there if you want to become a nun type of thing. So if you know you want to become a nun, you go there type of thing. But I think it's so important to know that, hey, like each vocation is super important, and it's not like, because you know, even the vocation of marriage or maybe even like a consecrated virgin, like all very different things 100%. And unique in its own way, but they're all, I feel, serving the same purpose about, you know, either glorifying God. Exactly. So for those who may have heard of come and see, or maybe, you know, thinking of marriage but not sure exactly, like, is this for me, or like, you know, just preparation in for that type of way. So I think I really recommend, you know, going to these when they are available for all the young people. So
100%.
Yeah.
And literally some of my spiritual sisters from Come and See, they've discerned married life, and you know, they're still praying about it and like discerning like their partners and whatever, but like that's also there. So like it's not like, don't feel like you if you go, you're in this box that you can't get out. And discernment is an ongoing journey. Like 100%. It doesn't really stop at all. Like it's continual. You're gonna keep praying. You know?
Exactly.
So,
yeah. So I guess we've kind of touched on like how it was initially, and the whole process of, you know, the people who are involved and things like that. The first steps that you kind of took for this vocation. Kind of along the way, obviously, as we know, it's not a linear process, such as life. But I guess what were some of the challenges, do you think, maybe spiritually or just even in your day-to-day like challenges? And how did you feel like you kind of overcame those struggles?
Yeah. So this is a hard one, because like when I say it was frustrating, I kid you not, it was so hard because you kind of like it's almost like if you've been pulled on both sides, you know, like, and I was like, I felt this huge pull towards married life, and I was like, yeah, this is for me and I love it, like I'm so excited, this, that and whatever. But then like I kept praying, like, you know, let your will be done, and me just like, like if you don't want to do my will kind of thing, you know. And then so then the other pull was like, okay, so like there is this vocation that I might, you know, want you to do, and like, are you open to it? And I wasn't, like, and so because I wasn't open to it, but then I couldn't just forget about it and pick the other vocation either, you know what I mean? Because it was almost like, because I kept praying about wanting to do his will so much, it's like he will make sure that is the case, you know what I mean? Your prayers, your words have meaning to it. So it was really hard. I remember some days, especially because my family didn't know that I had these thoughts. So then they would be like, oh, you know, what's going on? And I'd be like, yeah.
Stay tuned.
Yeah, like I'd be like, literally, my parents are pretty great. And so they were very accepting, even, you know, when I was clocking in the age of time. They were like, okay, whenever you're ready kind of thing, you know. But not whenever you're ready to send your vocation. Whenever you're ready, let's get married.
So marriage was still like talked about, because I know obviously you've mentioned as well when, you know, when a lot of people kind of look at you and be like, oh, you will look, and yesterday, like, never, like, it was kind of like that in your situation. So I guess even that, I guess it's like a double question, like, did they even, like, even your own family, like, obviously this is such a big thing to kind of like, hey, this is what I'm choosing, religious life, like, was it something that was kind of taken with complete seriousness as say, let's, you know, if you go and tell the bishop about it, but telling your own family who has kind of grown up around you and seen your wild days, do they take it like, oh, surely not, like?
I mean, it's funny you say that, because during when I was discerning, I hadn't talked to them about it. This is before I talked to them about it. They during COVID, we were all home, we were like having food together or something like that, and then something happened, and then they were like, oh, like, kattapaga. And so it's that's where I'm going.
India, huh?
Yeah.